the last 2 or so months, the diva of Dump Divas Kat Engelbert, along with players in the WNBA who are desperately fighting for money they haven't earned, they have been congregating every Sunday morning at Woke United Methodist like they usually do. But instead of praying to their unrisen King George Floyd and demanding their usual prayer request, chartered flights, an increased supply of Just for Men, complimentary batteries for recently donated dildos, directions for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow so they can collect $1 million salaries, instead of their usual request, the WNBA and its players, they have been asking Father George to heal the great white hope, Caitlin Clark.
Okay, this is wild. The WNBA, they're totally sweating bullets right now, folks. Their ratings are tanking, ticket sales are flatlining, and suddenly the very league that claimed it was more than one player is now practically begging Caitlin Clark to limp back onto the court. Yep, the exact same player they spent all season trashing. She's the only one who can save them. So do you think she should even return? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now, because here we are watching the WNBA, a league that spent the better part of last year telling us Caitlin Clark wasn't the face of women's basketball, now practically on its knees, hoping she swoops in just in time to save their ratings disaster. Kinda funny how that works, right? Remember when the league, its players, and pretty much half the media were bending over backwards to convince everyone it wasn't just about Caitlin, that it was about the collective, that one player can't define a league? Well, guess what? Now that ratings are in a total freefall and people are already forgetting the playoffs even exist, suddenly it's all about Caitlin Clark again. It's almost like she was the only thing keeping this entire league relevant. Seriously, just imagine that.
Hey George, it's me, Kathy E! We're in deep shit. The networks are expecting big ratings for the playoffs, and there is absolutely no way these unknown players who think they are stars can deliver. I really need a miracle, Father. Can you please heal the injuries that Caitlin Clark is dealing with?
But seriously, let's not pretend any of this is shocking, because anyone who's been paying even a little attention could have seen this disaster coming from a mile away. The second Clark went down, boom, the buzz vanished, the attendance hype, gone, the national TV bump, poof, completely gone, and that social media chatter, dead silence. ESPN, which literally spent months milking her name for every single click, now has to force feed us stories about Angel Reese wearing a new outfit or Sabrina Ionescu doing another 3-point contest just to fill their airtime, because without Caitlin Clark, this league is basically invisible, and trust me, they are absolutely panicking. Kathy Engelbert, the so-called commissioner, is out here doing her best to act all calm and collected, but behind closed doors, she is sweating bullets, right? Networks like ESPN, ABC, and even all those fancy streaming deals, they were sold on one thing and one thing only: Caitlin Clark. She's not just a player, she's the ratings machine, the undeniable cash cow, the only reason anyone outside of hardcore WNBA Twitter even knows this league exists. And without her, those massive advertising deals don't hit, those sponsors don't renew, and guess what? The very players who've been demanding NBA level salaries are about to find out real quick that reality doesn't care one bit about their Twitter clapbacks. But here's where it gets really funny: the same players who are mocking Clark, taking cheap shots at her on the court, rolling their eyes every single time she got coverage. Yeah, they're quietly praying she comes back right now. Oh, they'll never ever admit it out loud, too much pride for that. But trust me, they're thinking it, because when Caitlin Clark plays, their checks get a little bigger. When Caitlin Clark plays, more people actually watch them. And when Caitlin Clark plays, suddenly they matter. But without her, they're totally irrelevant. Plain and simple. Nobody outside of their tiny fan bases actually cares. And that, my friends, is the brutal truth the WNBA is being forced to swallow whole. So let's talk numbers, because the numbers never ever lie. And when Clark was healthy, fever games were pulling in record-breaking viewership for the league. We're talking primetime ratings that actually outdrew Major League Baseball. Ticket sales spiked in every single city she visited. Jersey sales went through the roof, and heck, even teams that had been struggling for years suddenly started selling out arenas the second Clark came to town. But now that she's been gone for weeks, those numbers have absolutely tanked. We're talking such a sharp decline that even the most optimistic PR spin can't even begin to cover it up. The league can claim record attendance all they want, but when the most important stretch of the season, the entire playoff push, has less buzz than a preseason scrimmage, you know there's a serious problem. And let's be real, Stephanie White, the head coach of the Fever, isn't exactly helping matters here.
Season. There is absolutely no reason for Caitlin Clark to return. But according to Stephanie White, the head coach of the Indiana Felines, not only is she hoping that Caitlin Clark returns for the playoffs, Steph wants to see the Roo from Waterloo back on the court in the regular season. The question is why?
So Stephanie White is out here saying she hopes Clark comes back for the regular season, maybe even the playoffs? Excuse me, what? Did I completely miss the part where putting an injured superstar back on the court just for ratings is suddenly a good idea? You'd honestly think a coach would prioritize the long-term health of their franchise player. But nope, apparently the bigger priority is just making absolutely sure ESPN has something, anything to talk about in between segments on LeBron James. Unbelievable.
And return to practice. Hell, at this point, I don't even know if she's on the Huffy. Well, KC, don't you mean the treadmill? The WNBA can't afford a treadmill. When players are rehabbing injuries or looking to warm up, the WNBA provides them with a used Huffy or sometimes a Schwinn. But either way, with 10 or so days left in the regular season, Caitlin Clark is nowhere near ready to return. But according to Stephanie White, we could see the Roo from Waterloo on the court soon.
Look, let's just be honest here. This whole thing isn't about team success or even playoff positioning. The Fever aren't winning a championship this year, with or without Caitlin, plain and simple. What this really boils down to is money. Pure and simple. The WNBA knows the only way to keep the lights on and those paychecks clearing is to have Clark back on the floor, no matter what the risk is. And you know what the most jaw-droppingly ironic part is? These very same players and league officials who absolutely love to posture about player empowerment are the exact ones most eager to risk Clark's long-term health for some short-term gain. Oh, but don't worry, they'll totally frame it as she just wants to be there for her team. Please, give me a break. We all know what's really going on behind that curtain.
Like I have been telling you guys since July, there is no way Caitlin Clark should return this season. The Indiana Felines are well on their way to being a flaming ass fire. They are barely clinging to the final spot in the playoffs. Sophie Cunningham's out for the season, which means Caitlin Clark would be on the court unprotected. She wouldn't have her bodyguard to protect her from opposing players who like to get physical.
Honestly, the truth is, Caitlin Clark is just too valuable for the WNBA to treat her like any other player. They simply cannot afford for her to sit out. They can't afford for fans to move on, and they definitely can't afford for their golden goose to realize she doesn't need them nearly as much as they desperately need her. Because here's the cold hard reality: if Caitlin Clark decided tomorrow that she was totally done with the WNBA, if she chose to take her incredible talents overseas, or even just focus on massive brand deals and appearances, the league would absolutely collapse. Done. Over. Finished. Angel Reese can film all the Netflix cameos she wants. Sabrina Ionescu can shoot all the practice threes she wants. Aja Wilson can post all the motivational quotes she wants. Without Clark, none of them move the needle, period. And that's why you're seeing this pure desperation right now. The league isn't just hoping Clark comes back. No, they are straight up begging. Quietly, behind the scenes, they're probably pressuring the Fever to manage her injury timeline. The networks are calling. The sponsors are asking uncomfortable questions. The players want their paychecks. Everyone's got their hand out, and the only person who can fill it is Caitlin Clark. But here's the kicker. Clark owes them nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. She doesn't owe it to the league. She doesn't owe it to the fans. And she certainly doesn't owe it to the very same players who spent the last year trying to tear her down. Her only responsibility is to to herself, her incredible career, and her future. And if that means sitting out the rest of the season, then so be it. End of story. Now let's talk about what happens when a league puts all its eggs in one basket and then, well, completely drops the basket. The WNBA has been coasting on Caitlin Clark's name since literally the day she declared for the draft. They plastered her face everywhere, sold out games just because of her presence, and then acted like they had built all that success themselves. But the second she got hurt, silence. Suddenly, that we're more than one player narrative didn't look so inspiring, did it? The irony is almost painful. These players who kept yelling "respect us all equally" are now watching empty arenas and flat ratings without Clark. Turns out equal respect doesn't actually translate into equal interest. The crowd doesn't show up for the collective. The crowd shows up for the star. And the only real star this league has right now is sitting on the bench. And here's the part the league absolutely does not want to admit. Clark isn't just a player. She's the product. She's the entire show. Without her, the WNBA is just another niche sports league begging for scraps of attention. But with her, suddenly casual fans care, national TV care, corporate sponsors care, and yes, even NBA Twitter, usually too busy arguing about LeBron, takes a moment to notice. So of course, they're desperate to get her back. It's not about competitive balance. It's not about the Fever making some deep playoff run. It is 100% about survival. Because if these playoffs totally flop, and all signs point to them flopping, the league is in serious trouble. Just think about the timing for a second. For months, the WNBA bragged about record-breaking numbers. Ticket sales here, jersey sales there, TV ratings everywhere. But look closer, and you'll notice something crucial. All those records perfectly lined up with Caitlin Clark. The Fever on the road, record ticket sales. The Fever on TV, record viewership. The Fever on social media, viral clips galore. Without the Fever, and without Clark, those records disappear faster than a WNBA player blocking you on Twitter for asking a tough question. And now, with Clark sidelined, what's genuinely left? Angel Reese doing Netflix cameo? A'ja Wilson putting up big numbers that nobody outside of Vegas even notices? Sabrina Ionescu hitting threes that ESPN desperately tries to hype up? It's just not enough. None of it moves the needle the way Clark does. The casual fan simply doesn't care. The networks know it. The advertisers know it. And deep down, the league absolutely knows it too. But here's the other angle. The players themselves. Oh, they'll never say it out loud, but trust me, they're sweating this too. Because bigger ratings mean bigger contracts, more sponsorships, more money. And without Clark, all of that just shrinks. Suddenly, those dreams of million-dollar salaries look way less realistic. Suddenly, that push for more respect, more coverage, more everything doesn't hold up. Because the league without Caitlin Clark looks exactly like it did 5 years ago. Irrelevant. And that's why I honestly laugh every time I hear someone say the WNBA was doing fine before Caitlin Clark. No, it absolutely was not. It was invisible. You could walk down the street, ask 100 people to name one WNBA player, and 99 would just shrug. Then Caitlin Clark showed up, and suddenly everybody knew at least one name. That's not fine. That's being rescued. But now the league is right back where it started, invisible without her. And instead of admitting the painfully obvious, they're scrambling to spin the story. They're hoping, praying, begging she comes back. You can almost picture Kathy Engelbert lighting a candle in the league office, whispering, "Please let her ankle heal. Please let her groin heal. Please let her carry us to relevance." It's honestly sad, but also hilariously predictable. And let's not forget how incredibly dangerous this situation is. Caitlin Clark has already been targeted more than any other player in the league. Hard fouls, cheap shots, constant trash talk. She even had Sophie Cunningham acting as her unofficial bodyguard, and now Sophie's out for the season. So what's the actual plan if Clark comes back? Just throw her back into the fire, injured, unprotected, and hope nothing happens? That's not a plan, that's a desperation player. The smart move, the truly responsible move, would be to sit her out, let her rest, let her fully heal, and build for the long term. But the WNBA doesn't think long-term. They think about ratings today, sponsors today, relevance today. They simply can't afford to wait because they know the second people stop talking about them, it's game over. And that, my friends, is the fundamental problem. Caitlin Clark's career is long. She has years ahead of her, brand deals lined up, a massive fan base that will follow her anyway. The WNBA, not so much. This league doesn't have years to spare. Every bad season pushes them closer to collapse. Every ratings dip pushes them closer to irrelevance. Every sponsor who walks away makes survival harder. So of course they're clinging to Clark. She's not just their best player, she's their only lifeline. But here's the ultimate kicker, she doesn't need them. She absolutely doesn't need the WNBA to be relevant. She could quit tomorrow and still make millions. She could join an overseas league and still pull more fans than most WNBA players combined. Hell, she could just tour the country shooting logo threes in empty gyms and people would still show up to watch. That's how big she is. That's how little the WNBA truly matters without her. And deep down, I think Clark knows this. I think her team knows this. I think her sponsors know this. Which is why it's absolutely laughable to think she owes the league anything. She doesn't. If anything, they owe her for every ticket sold, every rating bump, every single headline. She made them relevant. She gave them attention. And how did they thank her? By mocking her, by targeting her, by trying to drag her down, and now they want her to save them. Good luck with that. So yeah, the WNBA is in full-blown panic mode, and honestly they absolutely should be, because whether or not Clark comes back, the brutal truth has already been exposed. This league is nothing without her. Nothing. And there you have it, folk. The WNBA scrambling like never before, begging the one player they spent months tearing down to come back and rescue their ratings. It's almost poetic, really. Without Caitlin Clark, this league looks emptier than their playoff arenas. With her, suddenly everyone pretends to care. But tell me this, should Clark even risk it? Or should she sit out and let the WNBA deal with the massive mess they created? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. See you in the next one.